seen a slow drive for Silver Lake, Atwater Village. It's a stalled big rig delaying us on that 5 south at Fletcher Drive. That is stuck in a center traffic lane right as you get to Los Feliz Boulevard. We are seeing the busy commute here. Still seeing that wreck in Glendale, the 134 west, right around Glendale Avenue. That's onto the right shoulder. And Linwood on the 105 east at Long Beach Boulevard. Earlier wreck to the right side here with a busy commute from at least the 110.
When you want the best deal on the best meal, choose Wendy's 2 for $6. Pick from Dave's Single, Spicy Chicken Sandwich, 10-piece Crispy Nugs, or a medium strawberry lemonade. Pair any two for just $6. Choose wisely. Choose Wendy's 2 for $6.
Is this the tackle?
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers beat Phoenix by 11 last night. 3 players scored 25 or more. 27 for Anthony Davis, 26 for D'Angelo Russell. Austin Reeves had 25 and 11 assists. Clippers star Paul George has a sprained right knee. He'll be evaluated in 2 to 3 weeks. George is expected to miss the Clippers' final 9 games of the regular season. The NCAA tournament resumes tonight. UCLA is a 2-point favorite over Gonzaga in the West Regional Semifinal in Las Vegas. 6:45 tip-off on CBS. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. This sports report was brought to you by Original Taco Pete.
It's Aaron from Original Taco Pete. Let us cater your March Madness munchies. Order with us at Original Taco Pete on Grubhub, Uber Eats, DoorDash, or stop into our Slauson and Crenshaw location. We'll feed you soon.
Hey, yo, don't let nobody else up in this booth.
Excuse me. Now that I have your attention, may I ask you this question? What image comes to mind when you hear the word homeless? Do you believe it to be solely a big city urban problem? A problem that only affects cities like Los Angeles and New York that have been inundated with panhandlers and tent encampments? What causes one to become houseless? And what strategies should be implemented to assist in helping people achieve and maintain housing stability? And do you believe having access to affordable housing should be a right in this country? Well, you've come to the right place. You're listening to LA's all-new progressive talk radio station of the people, by the people, for the people. It's KBLA Talk 1580, and we've got you covered around the clock. Racism?
We don't hate white people, we hate the oppressor, whether he be white, black, brown, or yellow.
We got you. Miseducation? We got you. Gun violence? We have you covered.
If you're afraid of socialism, you're afraid of yourself.
A black-owned and operated, evidence-based alternative radio station for progressive, open-minded people like you and me. Welcome home, LA. We're all in this together. It's KBLA Talk 1580, broadcasting from the heart of LA's Leimert Park. We've got a lot to talk about.
You can't do it unless you believe that you can do it.
I'm Tavis Smiley, and hopefully in this hour we will tell you something good. I can tell you now we love you, and we appreciate you tuning in today to our program, and every day here on Unapologetically Progressive, as I can say it, KBLA Talk 1580. We're playing Chaka all 3 hours today because today is her 70th birthday, so in case you've just tuned in, happy birthday to Chaka Khan, celebrating her 70th natal day today. It's been a great show the first 2 hours. I'm excited. And looking forward to this hour. To my point earlier, we're going to tell you something good in this hour. Our guest in this hour is Dr. Paul Bloom, Professor Emeritus of Psychology at Yale University, a renowned psychologist and best-selling author who has taught one of the most popular classes ever in the history of Yale University, has dedicated his career to exploring the mysteries of the human mind. So today, sort of a 1 hour class, a master class, which you get to audit for free courtesy of this radio station, about his work and witness over the years. His latest book is called Psych, The Story of the Human Mind. It offers a sweeping overview of the latest research on the psychology of human behavior and culture. I expect and hope that in this conversation, in this hour, that Dr. Bloom and I will delve into some of the key topics covered and explored in his text, Psych, including the age-old debate of nature versus nurture. I had that debate with Sidney Poitier for 27 years. Most of you know that I was had the honor of being a dear friend of Sidney Poitier, and every other Tuesday for 27 years we would have lunch. And the thing that we debated most over a 27-year friendship was nature versus nurture. We'll also talk about the psychology of emotions and decision-making, the development of morality and ethics, and the role of culture in shaping the mind. I am humbled, honored, and pleased to have Dr. Paul Bloom on this program. Dr. Bloom, how are you, sir?
I am doing great. I'm thrilled to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
I'm delighted to have you. You're no more thrilled than we are to have this opportunity to access your mind and your work. Let me start broad, and we'll narrow our way through the hour. Again, as I said earlier, you've dedicated your career to exploring the mysteries of the human mind. My first big question is why?
It's the most interesting thing there is. I mean, there's a lot of interesting things out there in the world. There's politics, there's culture, there's the natural world. But at least for me, figuring out why people do what they do, what our dreams mean, how our memories work, why we hate each other sometimes and love each other other times, is just the absolute coolest question. So I devoted my life to doing research and writing on these questions, and I don't regret a minute of it.
Yeah. How did this become I see it as a vocation, as a calling, not just a job, obviously, but how did this become your vocation and your calling in the world?
When I was a kid, my younger brother, Howard, is severely autistic. He doesn't speak. And I spent a lot of time as a teenager working with kids like him at camps and in special programs. So I thought I'd become a clinical psychologist and work with kids. And then I kind of realized over time that I just don't have the patience for it or abilities for it. I'm not, I wouldn't make for a good therapist. But at McGill University, I had the good luck to bump into a professor, John McNamara, who does a lot of theoretical stuff, research stuff on psychology. And, you ever have these situations where you bump into somebody, it's just chance, and then your whole life is transformed? So I ended up working in his lab, and then I never looked back.
Yeah. Tell me more about how, as a child, you navigated the relationship with your brother Howard. And I asked that because I was just in conversation the other day. We have a host on this station who's done great work in the autism arena. She's raised money. They're building a center here in L.A. She's one of my colleagues here. Reva Martin has a son who's autistic, and I've just learned so much just watching the way that she moves and she operates. And, of course, I'm conversing with people every day on this program and just learning more about it over the years. And now, if you'd asked me, 30 years ago, mentioned the word autism to me, I might have been completely dumbfounded. But now that term and everything that connects to it has become so much more, I think, present in, not to say relevant in our society, but as a child. Tell me about that relationship with your brother Howard.
So I think you're right. I think we've really changed our way of viewing these sorts of things. And autism has taken on different meanings. So now we hear, Elon Musk is autistic, Bill Gates is autistic, a lot of famous people. And a lot of people you might meet would say, will tell you I'm autistic. And some people could be autistic, and I think it's true. And then they might speak about neurodiversity. They might say, well, don't treat this as an illness. Treat this as an alternative way of being that deserves respect, that deserves accommodation. And I'm pretty much behind that. But there's another sense of autistic, where you have kids who can't speak, they can't toilet themselves, they need help to make it through the day. And I think you can't look at that seriously and say, wow, that's like a different way of being. Rather, it's this terrible scourge. And if we could fix it, if we could cure these kids, it would be wonderful. And growing up with a brother like that, it has certain effects on you. It makes you appreciate luck. I have two sons, and they're both in their 20s, both wonderful, healthy, happy kids. But I was always conscious that it could have been different. It exposes you to sort of the role of blind chance in your life. And And it also develops. It also, I think, in some way, gets you to be compassionate towards people. Sometimes is with somebody who's really autistic. Sometimes somebody who doesn't give back, who just needs the help, and it's not a reciprocal relationship. Mm-hmm. I have so much respect for people who have autistic kids, particularly the severely autistic kids, because it is so tough. It is so tough, and I have so much respect for people who do this.
Yep. We have great respect for Reva Martin. She's the host of our afternoon drive program, rather. She hosts the afternoon drive program 4 to 6. She's on today, as a matter of fact, and let me just pivot right quick, ever so gently. Today, 4:35, she'll be here with our resident justice correspondent, Deon Raymond, who's been covering the case of LA City Councilman Mark Ridley Thomas. As you know, yesterday the defense rested. They rested. I have not had an update on what's happening right now, but I suspect right now, or if not now, at some point today, they're in closing arguments. Somebody find out for me where they are. They should be in closing arguments at some point today, and it is possible that there will be a verdict, perhaps, in this case today, perhaps tomorrow. But we've been following this case every day at 4:35, the case of LA City Councilman Mark Ridley Thomas, this federal bribery case. And we're the only station in town that's been giving this daily download to you every day. And so we are getting to the end of this trial. And again, Reva today at 4:35 will be in conversation with our justice correspondent, Deon Raymond, who's been in the courtroom every day covering this case. But I raised that only because we were talking about Reva and her son, who's autistic, and she's done great work, is doing great work on the autism front. And I echo Dr. Paul Bloom. Have great respect for those who are in this space and helping others to navigate it. So Reva's experience basically with her son caused her to start the Special Needs Network, and she's raised all kinds of money to help other parents who are dealing with children who are autistic. We're talking with our guest, brilliant Yale professor, emeritus, Dr. Paul Bloom, about his lifelong work exploring the mysteries of the human mind. I'm always fascinated by these conversations, and none greater to talk to about the human mind than Dr. Paul Bloom, and we'll jump right into it when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about. Good thing we've got 3 hours. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
Need legal help? Attorney Jovan Blacknell is an aggressive trial attorney specializing in criminal defense and civil litigation. Look no further than the law office of Jovan Blacknell. From personal injury to criminal defense, Jovan Blacknell has the knowledge to protect your rights. The law office of Jovan Blacknell understands the stress and anxiety that come with legal issues. That's why the law office of Jovan Blacknell supports the right to a fair trial. For Los Angeles Council member Mark Ridley Thomas, are you facing a legal battle? Log on to fightforjustice.com. Don't go through it alone. Let the law office of Jovan Blacknell fight for your rights. Log on to fightforjustice.com. Let the law office of Jovan Blacknell take the worry and stress out of your case. Call 310-469-9117 today for a free consultation. That's 310-469-9117 or log on to fightforjustice.com. Law office of Jovan Blacknell, where experience and dedication make the difference.
It's game day at Jim's house, and the spread is impressive.
Mike's already done some damage with the hot wings, and now he's dropping back and going deep for another slice of pizza.
I sure hope he brought the Pepto.
Mike knows the Pepto-Bismol provides fast 5-symptom relief from unexpected stomach upsets. He's no rookie.
The way he's throwing back those nachos, he's the GOAT.
Be ready for game day with Pepto-Bismol.
When you have nausea, heartburn, indigestion, upset stomach, diarrhea.
Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Hi. Who's this?
Buzz. He appears whenever you eat Honey Nut Cheerios.
Like a genie?
Sure.
Ooh, does he grant wishes? I wish I lived in a giant boot. No, I wish I could swim with a humpback whale. No.
I can grant you a delicious bowl of Honey Nut Cheerios, which can help lower cholesterol as part of a heart-healthy diet.
Ooh, with heart shapes, too.
Happy heart-shaped Cheerios are back for a limited time. Pick up a box of Honey Nut Cheerios at your local store for an easy, delicious, and heart-healthy start to your day.
Some people won't give you the real talk on drugs, but it's time we know the facts. Fentanyl is killing people. It's a powerful opioid, often made illegally and commonly mixed with illicit drugs. It can even be pressed into counterfeit pills that resemble prescription medications. Just 2 milligrams, about the size of a few grains of sand, could potentially be lethal. This isn't an ad to scare you, but it is an ad to make you think twice. Get the facts. Go to realdealonfentanyl.com. This message is brought to you by the Ad Council.
Broadcasting live from Leimert Park, USA. Welcome back to your home for unapologetically progressive radio, KBLA Talk 1580.
Happy birthday, Chaka Khan. Today is Chaka's 70th birthday, so all 3 hours of today's program, we've been playing some of the best of Chaka Khan, and there's a lot to choose from. She has acquitted herself quite well with a deep corpus of hits and B-sides. Chicago's own Chaka Khan celebrating her 70th birthday today. We love you, Chaka, and we are celebrating your natal day here on KBLA Talk 1580. Our guest in this hour is Dr. Paul Bloom, renowned psychologist, best-selling author who's dedicated his life and career to exploring, as I said earlier, the mysteries of the human mind. His latest text is called Psych, the Story of the Human Mind. There's a lot in this book. Hard to know where to start, Dr. Bloom. Let me start with this, I think, and that is just sort of just a teaser here. When you enter conversations with laypersons about the mysteries of the human mind, I mean, you've made and offered presentations around the world. When you start trying to get us to hone in our thinking about the presentation you're about to make about the human mind, where do you typically start?
It depends a lot on the kind of talk I'm giving, but I like to start by talking about a discovery that we've made, and there's a few discoveries.
Okay.
I'll quickly tell you about three. Which
It ain't got to be quick. We got an hour, brother. Go ahead, take your time. I'm with you. I want to learn here. Yeah.
One is the idea that the brain is the source of mental life. The physical brain, the 3-pound piece of meat between our ears, is where our feelings come from, where our plans come from, our ideas, our loves, our hatreds. We don't exactly know how it does it. In some way we think it works like a computer, but that doesn't explain the feelings, which computers probably don't have.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is neuroscience. This is the physical base of the brain, and it's a shock to a lot of people. A lot of people, say, "Well, that's not where I think." But they think there's something about me that's just above and beyond the brain. I think one of the bits of surprise from psychology is that that's not true. The second thing goes back to your discussion of nature and nurture, which is there's some incredibly cool studies of babies finding that, contrary to what a lot of people would expect, babies come into the world with a pretty rich understanding of the world. They know about objects, they know about people. You show them a good person and a bad person, one person pushing another person down or helping, and even around their first year of age, they prefer the one that helps over the one that harms. So a lot of the basic ideas from like Plato on arguing about the innate built-in basis of a lot of our consciousness and intelligence seem to be right. And the third thing I tell people is about memory. So we tend to think of our memories as if, you're holding up your camera and you're recording the world. You have a perfect record all stored in your head. And if you think really hard, you can get it back. Or if you're hypnotized or you have a sympathetic therapist. But it seems not to be true. It seems that memory is more of a reconstruction. When you remember something, you're pulling back from, based on what you remember, what you recall, but also the sort of questions you're being asked, your mood at the time, what you want to be true. And because of that, there's both laboratory demonstrations and some real terrible cases in the real world where people end up with false memories. People go through a police interrogation where they're yelled at about a crime they didn't commit, and at the end of it, they think they committed it. And in the laboratory, psychologists have instilled false memories in people. And I think what this means is that you think back on something 5 years ago, 10 years ago, even a year ago, and you're totally confident what happened, how things went down. You're probably wrong. we are very overconfident in our memories. So maybe that's some bad news.
Yeah. No, it's not bad news. It gives me a lot to interrogate, so let me just jump. You said 2 or 3 things now I want to get you to expound on for us. Let me start with the latter, and I'll work my way back. So memory. What have you learned over these years in all your research about, how about I put this, the ways in which, to the extent we can, protect our memories? So to your point, when we do, in fact, recall something from 5 years ago or 10 years ago that we're recalling accurately, is there anything we can do about that? And let me just say this right quick before you answer that. Maya Angelou was a godmother to me, and I spent 25 years as her young understudy, and just learned so much, of course, sitting at her feet. And two things. One, we had this lifelong debate about what is the greater virtue, love or courage. We were discussing that the other day on this program. So I'm debating with Sidney Poitier for 27 years about nature versus nurture. I'm debating with Maya Angelou about the greatest virtue, love or courage. But one of the things that Maya told me, we all know that her first memoir was I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. And she said to me, Tavis, if your career is going to be all that I think it is going to be, I suggest you take my advice. She said, don't wait until you're 80 years old or 85 to write your life story. Do as I've done and write 5 memoirs. Write it in 5 parts. And so I Know Why the Caged Bird Sing was her first book, but she did 4 other memoirs. And she did that in part because she was afraid that as she aged, her memory wouldn't be as good to tell the story the way it needed to be told. So every 10 years or so, she'd write the next phase of her memoir because she was afraid that her memory necessarily wouldn't hold up. That's a long way of getting to the point I want to ask, which is, are there ways in which we can, again, to your joke earlier, which wasn't really a joke, it was funny, but it was true, ways we can protect and enhance our memories as we age?
Yeah, that's a great question. I can't improve on her advice. The best thing to do if you want to remember something is write it down when it happens. Write it down, film it, tape it when it happens. A day later, it's going to get distorted. A week later, it's more distorted. And a month later, you could just as well have made it up. So get it down on the spot right away. And then you'll be surprised. You know, there's a study of people at 9/11, when the planes hit September 11th, right away people were asked, where were you when you heard the news? Mm-hmm. And then they got back to the same people many years later and they said, where were you when you heard the news? And for about half of them, the stories had no relationship to where they were. And this gets us to the worst thing you could do with your memories. The worst thing you could do with your memories is talk about them with other people. Mm. If you don't already have it down, you talk about it. Because then what happens is you'll change it, you simplify it, make it a good story, they expand on it. You know, I was once at a party and I told people what I thought kind of a funny story of something that happened to me. And on the drive home, my wife very nicely said to me, you know, that happened to me, not to you. But you know, but that's how memory works. That's how memory works.
That's funny. The things we share in marriages, that's hilarious. I'm also struck by what you said earlier about the ways in which people can be, their memories or their dispositions, mental dispositions can be morphed or changed in a particular space and time. And the example that I want to bring up to get your take on, it just popped in my mind as you were thinking. I'm thinking about the Central Park Five, these 5 black men that we all know years ago who were accused of a heinous crime in Central Park. And some of those young black men ended up confessing to things that they had not done. Now, I understand politically, I understand, socially, I understand culturally how they might have decided to do that, perhaps because it was in their best interest at the time. What I don't understand is why I'm talking to Dr. Paul Bloom, is how the mind allows them to end up confessing to things that they did not do. Somehow these detectives got inside their heads and made them say things that just weren't true, which we found out years later. In terms of how the mind works, the mysteries of the mind, can you tell me anything about that?
It sounds astonishing. I mean, what doesn't sound so surprising is somebody might confess falsely because they're told, "Oh, you'll get off," or this is the way to solve your problems. But to get people to actually believe they did things they didn't do is one of the more shocking betrayals of memory. But it kind of falls out from how memory works. I think a very, very mild example. We show you a video of a movie where different things happen, and in the middle of it, we say to you, how fast was the school bus going when it went past? You say, I don't know, I didn't notice. And then a week later, we ask you, so was there a school bus in the scene? You say, oh yeah, even though there wasn't. But the question assumed one, and you added it to your narrative. That's a very small example. Mm-hmm. But imagine somebody being interrogated days after days with little sleep, being told, look, this is what happened. We know this. You better fess up to it. And sometimes people, particularly when they don't have their defenses up, will absorb what they're being told and what they're being asked into a narrative that they themselves believe. There have been people who have turned themselves in for crimes. And then people go, look back, you weren't even in the country then. You couldn't have done it. And memory is extraordinarily fragile. And in a different regard, going back to the Central Park Five and similar cases, one of the good things my colleagues have done in the world is they've shown up the limitations of eyewitness testimony. It is something so compelling. Someone's on a trial, and I point, and I say, he did it. I know it's him. You hear this, and it says, how could you argue against it? But now we know that not lying, not in some way with some ulterior motive, people can honestly believe that something happened, even if it didn't. Yeah. And this has led to revolution in how we do eyewitness testimony and also police interviews.
I want to come to that right now, eyewitness testimony, because I wanted to ask, as I will right now, how it is that, say, 5 people can be at the scene of whatever the event is. And when they sit with detectives, days later, 5 of them at the same spot, at the same time, witnessing the same event, but their memories of it are all vastly different. How's that possible?
It's more of the same. When it's later on and you try to recall something, you bring in your expectations of how things should be. You bring in the questions you were asked. You bring in how you talked about it before. It doesn't have to be a crime. Get together with 5 friends on something, or go for dinner or something, and then just for fun. Next time you're going, hey, describe it. What did we order? Where did we go? You'll be shocked at how different the explanations are. Mm-hmm. And then there's other facts. Like when it comes to eyewitness testimony, for instance, there's racial biases, and racial biases in some ways that are not surprising, which is if you expect a certain race to commit a crime, you're more likely to remember it as such. But also, even in a very unintentioned way, we are less good at recognizing people who come from ethnic groups we're less familiar with. They call this the other race effect. Mm-hmm. So white people are better at recognizing white faces than black faces. Yeah. And this also comes in for testimony problems.
Mm. This might sound strange. I got about 90 seconds here before news, traffic, and sports will continue when we come forward on the other side. But right quick in these 90 seconds, we now know all these years later from the Human Genome Project that we ain't really that different. I really ain't that different from Dr. Paul Bloom. He's much brighter than I am. But the genome tells us that we're really not that different. How vastly different, though, are our minds?
That's not a 90-second question. We speak different languages. We have different opinions. We have different worldviews. My short answer is, at root, we are not that different. Mm. At the most level of emotions and memories and how we think about the world, we are fundamentally the same person. And then our experiences and all sorts of things drift us in different ways. And there's a lot to be said about how we're different. I think you're a lot more extroverted than I am. I couldn't do what you do, but that might be in the 1%, and the other 99% we don't even notice because it's so much the same.
So that's the short answer. When we come forward after news, traffic, and sports, the longer answer, I promise we'll come right back to that question and give you more time to unpack that, which is how vastly different are our minds. I raised this because there've been all kind of books. The Bell Curve and any number of other texts written over the years that suggest that some of us who have more melanin in our skins are intellectually inferior. And I want to probe that with Dr. Paul Bloom and ask him, how different are we really when it comes to the mysteries of the human mind? His book, his latest text, is called Psych, The Story of the Human Mind. He's Dr. Paul Bloom, Professor Emeritus of Psychology at Yale University, for years taught the most popular course at Yale. And today you get to audit it for free on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 is an intervention. When we come forward, includes you. KBLA Talk 1580, turning pain into power.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. Lawyers on Capitol Hill are grilling the head of the social media app TikTok over the company's ties to China.
Mr. Chu, you are here because the American people need the truth about the threat TikTok poses to our national and personal security.
During a House committee hearing, Republican Kathy McMorris Rogers of Washington State said the app collects every data point imaginable from users and should be banned. Another attempt at limiting talks of racism is moving through the North Carolina legislature. The State House passed the bill along party lines yesterday that bans promotion of critical race theory, but it falls short of preventing a veto. One lawmaker says it prohibits schools from endorsing discriminatory concepts. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Good news, finally getting the all clear. Trying to travel away from downtown up at Hollywood. We've had a tough drive. They had a wreck earlier on the 101 North around Highland. That has now been cleared from that right lane. As you get to Gower, it's busy. Seen a slow drive for Silver Lake, Atwater Village. It's a stalled big rig delaying us on that 5 south at Fletcher Drive. That is stuck in a center traffic lane right as you get to Los Feliz Boulevard. We are seeing the busy commute here. Still seeing that wreck in Glendale, the 134 west, right around Glendale Avenue. That's onto the right shoulder. And Linwood on the 105 east at Long Beach Boulevard. Earlier wreck to the right side here with a busy commute from at least the 110.
When you want the best deal on the best meal, choose Wendy's 2 for $6. Pick from Dave's Single, Spicy Chicken Sandwich, 10-piece Crispy Nugs, or a medium strawberry lemonade. Pair any 2 for just $6. Choose wisely. Choose Wendy's 2 for $6.
Is this the tackle? This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers beat Phoenix by 11 last night. 3 players scored 25 or more. 27 for Anthony Davis, 26 for D'Angelo Russell. Austin Reeves had 25 and 11 assists. Clippers star Paul George has a sprained right knee. He'll be evaluated in 2 to 3 weeks. George is expected to miss the Clippers' final 9 games of the regular season. The NCAA tournament resumes tonight. UCLA is a 2-point favorite over Gonzaga in the West Regional Semifinal in Las Vegas. 6:45 tip-off on CBS. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. This sports report was brought to you by Original Taco Pete.
It's Aaron from Original Taco Pete. Let us cater your March Madness munchies. Order with us at Original Taco Pete on Grubhub, Uber Eats, DoorDash, or stop into our Slauson and Crenshaw location. We'll feed you soon.
I'm young, gifted, and black.
KBLA Talk 1580, we do more than just talk.
Hey there, I'm Jared Hill, president of the National Association of Black Journalists of Los Angeles, and I just want to say thank you for the benevolent $10,000 donation and scholarships for the next generation of black journalists.
And I'm Haywood Galbraith, photojournalist and founder of the Minority Photojournalism Institute. Thanks, KBLA, for your generous $10,000 scholarship gift to help us train the next generation of black photojournalists.
Congratulations to all the students who will benefit from the scholarship dollars raised at our Black History Month luncheon honoring black legends in LA media. When we come forward at KBLA Talk 1580, we're bringing everybody with us. Everybody with us. Everybody with us. Everybody with us. Everybody
with us. This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Has child support suspended your license? Illegal. Has child support been reported on your credit report? Illegal. Log on to childsupportisfraud.com for more information.
Hello, this is Dr. Rosa Milligan, self-appointed mayor of South Central Los Angeles, calling authors and business owners. Get ready for Black Writers on Tour, plus Business and Tech Expo, Saturday, March 25th, 2023, 10 to 3 p.m. It's a face-to-face event at the Carson Community Center.
Authors, aspiring writers, learn how to write, publish, and sell your book. Business owners, let people know where you're at, and much more. 323-750-3592. It's a free event. You heard right, free. And there's something for everybody. Go to blackwritersontour.com and register today. 323-750-3592.
Literacy is everybody's business. Black Writers on Tour, Saturday, March 25th, 2023, 10 to 3 p.m. I'm looking to see you face to face. 323-750-3592 or visit blackwritersontour.com. Don't miss it.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where hate meets a scholarly match.
Hey!
I'm Tavis Smiley. You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580. Our phone number, 1-800-920-1580, 1-800-920-1580. We have been delighted all 3 hours today to play the music of Chaka Khan as she celebrates, Chaka does, her 70th birthday today. It reminds me, speaking of memory, this I do recall, Dr. Bloom. My memory's working well in this regard. I was somewhere one day and this song came on, and the little girl looked at her mother and says, "Why is that lady singing Whitney Houston's song?" And all the adults sort of fell out. Of course, the little child didn't know that before Whitney had done this song, Chaka Khan had done it. She said, "Why is that lady, and who is that lady singing Whitney Houston's song?" And I remember just laughing that day. Chaka did it well, and so did Whitney, but only one of them is celebrating his 70th birthday today. So happy birthday to Chaka Khan. So there's an example that my memory still works well sometime. I don't recall where I was, but I recall the story, what the little girl said to her mother. We are talking in this hour with Dr. Paul Bloom, who is a professor of psychology at the University of Toronto and professor emeritus of psychology at Yale University. His new book is called Psych, The Story of the Human Mind, and we are probing this 3-pound piece of meat, as he put it, between our two ears. And all things related to it. Before news, traffic, and sports, Dr. Bloom, as you recall, I was asking you, based on what we now know about the Human Genome Project, that we're really not that different, how different our minds really are. There have been all kinds of texts and individuals over the years who advanced this notion that some of us who, like yours truly, have a bit more melanin in our skin or not as intellectually adroit as others are. So I asked, how different are our minds? You gave me the short answer, now give me the long answer.
Yeah. So in some way, you're asking two questions.
Okay.
One question you're asking, the sort of pointed question, is what about differences between human groups, between whites and blacks and Jews and Asians and so on?
Mm-hmm.
And people have different cultures, they have different environments, but I think the evidence is that the differences there tend to be cultural, having to do with history, different communities. If you know somebody's ethnicity, you can kind of give a pretty good guess as to what they might do for a living. Some have more different jobs than others. But I don't think this is a fundamental psychological difference. I think it's more of a difference between in culture, in upbringing, and in the United States in history, where a lot of particularly the disadvantages some groups face reflect deep differences, deep injustices that happen over time. And I don't have to lecture you on this. It's I think a lot of this is fairly obvious to most people. Okay, but now here's the kind of interesting thing. You take people from the same family, the same community, no differences in ethnicity. That's all the same. But people are still going to differ, right? Mm-hmm. Some people are extroverted, some are introverted, some are straight, some are gay, some are quick to anger, some get into trouble all the time, some are very law-abiding. And psychology, what makes people different? And some do well at school, some do poorly at school. And so we're trying to figure it out. Like me and my brother and my sister, we have different genes. And genes get shuffled around differently. I have different genes than my neighbors. That could play some role. Mm. There's good reason to believe that just like any physical differences, whether you're taller than me or whatever, have genetic basis. Psychological differences have some genetic basis. If I know how introverted your biological mother and biological father are, even if they never raised you, I could guess how introverted you would be. Not at 100%, but I get some sense. But then there's all the parts that don't have to do with genes. Some of it has to do with how you're raised, and some of it has to do with your environment. So there's a lot of interest, for instance, in the role of a kid's peer group, the other kids they hang out with, as teenagers, younger than that, in shaping their personalities and shaping their identities. Mm. So it's the answer to why are we different has a million, different. It goes a million different ways. It's very interesting. There's some surprises there. Yeah. There's some studies, for instance, suggesting that parenting doesn't play as much of a role as people used to believe. Mm. Mm.
Give me a bit more about that. I'm curious.
Yeah. It used to believe, if you have aggressive parents who are maybe who are very physical with you, that makes aggressive kids. But it turns out that a lot of the connection is that whatever makes the parents aggressive, from the standpoint of their genes, the kid has them too, if they're biological kids, and that gets sent. And if it turned out that your parents, how you're parented, how you're raised, has an enormous role in your personality, then adopted kids who are adopted into the family should be kind of the same as the non-adopted kids. You know, if my parents raise me and they also raise an adopted son, and they play a huge role in shaping personality, the adopted kid should be a lot like me. And one of the surprises is that it doesn't. It doesn't seem to happen that way.
Fascinating.
I mean, parents do a lot by loving their kids, by supporting their kids, by making their kids' lives good. It's not clear that as parents, you know, I have a couple of kids, and and in some ways it's kind of a shock to me. But as parents, we don't quite mold our kids' personalities maybe as much as we think we do.
Yeah, that may be a good thing.
That may well be a good thing. You know, and you say this, and anybody who has more than one kid kind of nods. You have just one kid, you say, oh, yeah, that kid's coming out just the way I did it. Then you have a second kid, and the kid goes in an entirely different direction. And you say, oh, my God, I have no control over it.
You teed this up earlier. I want to come right to it now and ask you about it more expressly, and that is the role of culture in shaping our mind. Talk to me.
Yeah, this is you know, I read in the book, I tell the story of psychology, and I boast about our discoveries and everything. But we have some embarrassments. And here's one big embarrassment. Most of our research, almost all of our research, has been done from people who in what they call weird societies. That's Western, educated, industrialized, rich democracies. We test people in the United States. We test them in Germany and Canada. But we don't do much research in the rest of the world, India and China and Africa. And as a result, our theories are very narrow. Now, it might have turned out it doesn't matter. Everybody's the same. But culture does matter. All sorts of things that you might think are universal. Like, for instance, Americans show a sort of self-enhancement bias. If I ask you for just about everything, are you lower than average, or better than average? You, being a healthy psychological person in the West, will say, I'm better than average. It's people need a better average. Friends, drivers, partners, they're better than average sense of humor, better than average at school. And we used to argue, well, this is human nature. But now we start looking at other societies, particularly in Asia, and it turns out maybe this isn't universal. And we're learning more and more to be cautious about what we say is a psychological universal. Sometimes we could say, but if you're going to say it, you have to test people from all around the world. And until we do that, we've lost our right to say it.
I'm watching my time here, so now I'm going to start throwing topics at you that I know you've written about in this book expressly that I want to that I want to get to, or things I've watched and listened to you opine on in your TED Talks and beyond that I want to get you to comment on. So I'm going to start throwing stuff at you between now and the top of the hour. Let me start with this one. What would you have said if you'd been in those lunches that I had with Sidney Poitier every other Tuesday for 27 years about our debate of nature versus nurture? By the way, he took the nature argument. I took the nurture argument. Just so you know.
You're going to hate this. It's what psychologists always say. It's complicated.
Yeah.
I would say nature and nurture. Look, I would say, for instance, that we're really swayed in our personalities by nature. A lot of our capacities as humans are just our product of evolution, what we're wired up. But nurture has a huge role. Yeah. You raise somebody as a hunter-gatherer, you know, in the same sort of environment we lived in 100,000 years ago, and somebody in a contemporary big city like Chicago, they're going to come out very different. Yeah. You raise somebody in a cruel society, they'll come out very, very different from a kind society. If you give me a specific thing, I'll tell you who I agree with. But in general, you're both right.
Yeah, I'm not going to tell you because you may agree with Poitier, and I ain't going to let that happen on my show. I digress on that point. Looking at my clock, we got some time left between now and the top of the hour. When we come forward, these are things that are on my mind. Speaking of the mind, things are on my mind. I doubt we'll get to all these. We'll see how good Dr. Bloom is. Maybe we'll run through these like on part of the interruption. We'll just do a real fast round robin here. But I want to ask him about the psychology of emotions and decision making. The development of morality and ethics, that really matters to me. This urge that some of us have to break the rules, where does that come from? whether or not AI can truly ever match human consciousness, and maybe a question about implicit bias. Let's see if we can cover as much of that as we can when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Be sure to like and follow Tavis Smiley at The Real Tavis Smiley and get Twitter updates at Tavis Smiley. The conversation continues when we come forward.
Black women making history at the Oscars. Maisha Cairo here with your K-Black Minute News, brought to you by Lendistry. The 95th Annual Academy Awards took place this week. Although the show has black media critics in an uproar due to Angela Bassett not winning Best Supporting Actress, we still celebrate costume designer Ruth E. Carter for becoming the first black woman to win 2 Oscars. Carter has worked on astounding films in the past, such as Selma, Malcolm X, and Spike Lee's School Days. Carter's moment has come again as she has won her second Oscar for Best Costume Design in the Marvel sequel Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. After taking home her win, Carter says she hopes that this can create more opportunities for other women of color in film. I'm Maisha Cairo, and that's your K-Black Minute News.
Hey, Dad, how do airplanes fly? What's in this box? Is this tree good for climbing? How are babies made? What does this thing do?
Kids are curious about everything, including guns. Talking to them about gun safety in your home is a good first step, but you can do more. Always keep your guns locked, unloaded, and stored separately from ammunition. Safe gun storage saves lives. Learn how to make your home safer at endfamilyfire.org. That's endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by End Family Fire, Brady, and the Ad Council.
KBLA 1580 Talk Radio congratulates Sal's Gumbo Shack for this Women's History Month. Surviving the pandemic and social unrest, Sal's Gumbo Shack continued to hold the community up with great food to all that came through the doors. Are you ready for the best gumbo in town? The best po' boy you've had? Sal's Gumbo Shack. We bring the bayou to you with real, authentic soul food. Mama and Granny's recipes made with real butter, real love, real everything. Also introducing a healthy option from our jackfruit selection. And there's more. Mouth-watering desserts, peach cobbler, banana pudding, red and blue velvet cake, 7-Up pound cake, homemade with lots of love. To order, call 562-423-2113. That's 562-423-2113. Sal's is also providing training and employment to those serious about a career in the food industry and the opportunity to perhaps own your own Sal's Gumbo Shack one day. Visit salsgumboshack.com or stop by either locations, Bixby Knolls or Long Beach Boulevard. Sal's Gumbo Shack.
Interrogating your assumptions and expanding your inventory of ideas. Let's get back to Tavis Smiley on KBLA Talk 1580.
Let's get back to Dr. Paul Bloom on KBLA Talk 1580. His book is called Psych, The Story of the Human Mind. Watching my time here. So we may have to top line some of these things right quick for this audience, Dr. Bloom, but they can learn more when they read your book and go online and see all your TED Talks and all the things you've done. But I want to just get some top lines to some of these issues I want to cover, and I think we can do all of them between now and the top of the hour. Let me start with this. This is not a question from me. This is a question from one of our listeners or any number of things coming at me. Let me get this one in right quick. Dr. Bloom, given black people's history of trauma, what is the effect it has on learning and memory?
The trauma of an individual interferes with learning and memory. That's pretty clear. In some way, it's common sense, but unless you're sort of able to think in a calm and relaxed way, you don't feel you're under threat. You don't feel you're in an environment where people hate you. You do better.
Yep.
And so I can't speak to the thing in general, but yeah, I mean, a life of trauma is not conducive to a life of learning and flourishing.
Yep. Speaking of which, what say you about the development of morality and ethics vis-a-vis our minds?
That's my day job. I mean, I that's where I do my research and write my scientific papers. I think we are born with some understanding of morality and ethics. We are born with compassion and kindness and love, a revulsion towards unfairness and cruelty. I think we have all these mental powers very early on, but it is very limited. So universal values like the wrongness of slavery or the wrongness of racism, wrongness of sexism, they're not wired in us. They're hard-fought discoveries. And so we start off with a sort of proto-morality, and then through culture and history, we get a better morality.
What about the well, that's encouraging to know that we start out the right way. So many of us end up on the wrong side of these questions, but it's at least encouraging to know we start out the right way. What about the psychology of emotions and decision making?
So emotions have a bad rap. Emotions, people say, oh, what you should do is you should become a Stoic or you should become a Buddhist and get rid of emotions like anger and anxiety and fear. And it's true, these can go wrong. Many people see therapists because they can't get grip on these things. But the emotions are there for a reason. If you never got angry, you'd be a patsy to anybody who wanted to push you over. If you never felt fear and anxiety, you wouldn't have lived long enough to be talking to me, because fear and anxiety keep you out of dangerous places. If you didn't feel gratitude or shame or guilt, you wouldn't be a moral person making your way through the world. So emotions have a bad rap because when we think about them, we think when they go too far. But the right amount of emotions, the right level, is I think essential for a good and productive life.
How should we think about implicit bias?
There's a big debate in my field about it. I think people are cautious about implicit bias tests, the sort of tests you could take online. Maybe don't show as much as people used to believe that they show. There's no such thing as like a racist detector you could do online. At the same time, though, everybody, you and me, we walk around in a world with a sort of explicit understanding of the world and the kind of people we want to be. And then under the surface, we have biases. We might look at a person and then think, at some level, that person is not suited for the job because of his or her skin color. That person is not somebody I want to be with because of their sex or their gender or something like that. And this could be implicit. You might feel a gut feeling and not know how to deal with it. And I think part of the project of being a good person is learning to cope with your implicit biases, understanding them and overriding them.
He's good. He's moving through these things as swiftly as I needed him to. In the few minutes that we have remaining when we come forward, I now want to ask him about this urge. He gave a powerful TED talk about this. I saw it a couple of days ago, about the surprising psychology behind your urge to break the rules, if you're one of those persons. And, of course, everybody's talking these days about AI. We just had a conversation on this program the other day about ChatGPT. And I want to ask him whether AI can ever truly match human consciousness. He said earlier computers don't have feelings. They don't, but I still want to ask that question. When we come forward, Dr. Paul Bloom, you're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
A safe place to go loud. A great place for progressive politics. KBLA Talk 1580. KBLA Talk 1580 celebrates Women's History Month, sponsored by Walmart. As we celebrate Women's History Month this month, KBLA Talk 1580 would like to spotlight women leaders in our community who are creating positive change. If you or someone you know is making a difference in your community, please nominate them with a 50-word or less post on why you feel they should be included in the KBLA Women's Series, sponsored by Walmart. These women leaders will be featured on KBLA, interviewed on KBLA, and participate in a panel discussion hosted by Reva Martin in real time. Visit the KBLA app or log on to KBLA1580.com to nominate a woman in your community that is creating positive change. This has been a KBLA Talk 1580 community call to action.
At Mucinex, we don't believe in cold and flu season. We only believe in comeback season, which starts with 12-hour relief. Just one dose of Mucinex DM provides 12 hours of relief for cough and chest congestion day or night. That's 3 times longer than those 4-hour cough liquids. So say goodbye to cold and flu season and hello to comeback season with Mucinex DM. Nothing lasts longer among over-the-counter cold and cough medicine. Get relief that lasts with Mucinex DM. Use as directed.
Attorney Joe Cordell.
Business owners and professionals face special challenges in divorce court. In addition to everything else going on, they have to contend with allegations that they are earning more than they are, coupled with claims on their business or practice itself. Clients with assets depend on their divorce lawyer's skills in these matters, and that's why it's so important to hire someone that has those skills.
1455 Frazee Road, Suite 1050, San Diego, California, 92108. CordellCordell.com.
It's getting hot in here, so hot.
KBLA Talk 1580 is apparently the talk of the town. From the LA Times to our talk radio competitors.
Hey, there was a story in the LA Times about Tavis Smiley. Now he is back with his own radio station, KBLA, black-owned and oriented towards the black audience. So, Mo, considering your knowledge of Tavis in his audience, what's your take on this?
Well, I think in a general industry sense, I think it's always good when there are more outlets, there are more talk radio, there's more voices and representation. At that point, I think talk radio had been too homogenous for too long.
Real quickly, is it going to succeed, yes or no?
I think it's going to succeed.
You think?
There's a new sheriff in town.
We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we don't black down. Let's unpack a little bit more with Tavis Smiley. The conversation continues right now.
3 minutes, 2 questions. The first question, your TED Talk, could you just top line that for the audience so they can go check it out for themselves? Our guest, Dr. Paul Bloom, did a powerful TED Talk called The Surprising Psychology Behind Your Urge to Break the Rules. Dr. Bloom.
Yeah, I'm really interested in why people do things they know are wrong. In part because they are wrong. They want to do the wrong thing. They want to do the bad thing. They want to make the mistake. And I think there's different things going on here, but my favorite answer for this is that we want to be autonomous. We want to be able to express our own desires. We hate being told what to do. And so, everybody says if you do this, it's wrong. You shouldn't do this. Only a dummy would do this. And there's a very natural instinct in all of us, not just a 4-year-old, but all of us, to say, I'm going to do it anyway. And so I talk about that in the TED Talk.
Let me cheat and throw this in right quick as a follow up. What is it about the mind, period, that convinces us or titillates us to do things that we are expressly told not to do?
I think it's something you call wrapped up in your sense of self, your ego.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody wants to be pushed around. If I said, look, Tavis, let me put your life in my hands, and I'll tell you exactly what to do. Even if you believe me, even if you believe I knew how to live your life better than you did, you just say no. You say, I want to do it. Mm-hmm. You can't take away my freedom to act. Call it a love of autonomy, a love of freedom, a love of self-determination.
Yeah, they tell you don't look in the box, and you look. Don't open the letter until I tell you to. We open the letter. We open the letter early. I mean, we do those things that we are told exactly not to do, and that always fascinates me. Here's the extra question. Everybody's talking for obvious reasons about AI. Will AI ever be able to truly match human consciousness?
That's an easy one. I don't know. Nobody knows. Nobody knows. AI is scaring a lot of people, including me. It is each month. It is getting better and better, and its intelligence skills could put both of us out of work, possibly. Yeah. But will it become conscious? Will it be other people? And if it's conscious, we can't just shut it down. We can't just tell it what to do. Then the whole world changes. We are living in very, very exciting times.
Yeah. And very scary times. You call it exciting.
Very scary.
Your exciting is my scary. But
my exciting is my scary too.
Yeah, all right, fair enough. Dr. Paul Bloom is a professor of psychology at the University of Toronto and professor emeritus of psychology at Yale University. He's one of the best at this. A renowned psychologist, best-selling author, who's dedicated his life, his work, and his witness to studying and exploring the mysteries of the human mind. His latest text is called Psych, The Story of the Human Mind. I highly recommend it. Dr. Bloom, thank you, sir, for this 1 hour. I immensely enjoyed it and learned a great deal. I owe you, sir. Thank you.
This has been a delight. I owe you. If you ever want, you can have me back. I'd love to talk to you again.
We'll make it happen. Thank you for your time. All the best to you. Time to make room now for the KBLA Midday Money Chain. Up next, the Millionaires Roundtable with Lynn Richardson, followed by Ahead of the Crypto Curve with Naja Roberts. Old money, new money. Either way, we got you covered here on KBLA Talk 1580. Once again, happy birthday to Chaka Khan. 70 years young today. I won't be here tomorrow. I keep lying. Tomorrow's Friday. So tomorrow's the best of Tavis Smiley. 3 great hours of our program from this week. Tomorrow on the best of Tavis Smiley on KBLA Talk 1580. Thanks for tuning in today and all this week. Until tomorrow. And as always, keep the faith.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Mike Island, and here's the latest from the Black Information Network. 3 former Memphis police officers charged in the death of Tyree Nichols are facing decertification today. They are 3 of the 5 officers charged with second-degree murder in Nichols' beating death. Decertification means the former officers won't be able to work in law enforcement in Tennessee ever again. A major professional services company is planning to eliminate 19,000 jobs. Accenture says the move will cost more than $1 billion in severance over the next year and a half. The company that's based in Ireland will also consolidate its office space. There's a new way to get an Uber. Users in 7 states can now call for a ride, and someone will be on the other end to help you reserve a ride. Expansion plans are in the works. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Island from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network, and BINnews.com.
When you want the best deal on the best meal, choose Wendy's 2 for $6. Pick from Dave's Single, Spicy Chicken Sandwich, 10-piece Crispy Nugs, or a medium strawberry lemonade. Pair any 2 for just $6. Choose wisely. Choose Wendy's 2 for $6.
Is this the time? This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Very important stretch coming up for the Clippers, starting with tonight's home game against Oklahoma City. Can they remain a legitimate contender in the Western Conference without Paul George? George is expected to miss the last 9 games of the regular season with a sprained right knee. The Clippers are 6-11 when PG is not in the lineup. Keep an eye on UCLA's defense in tonight's NCAA tournament game against Gonzaga in Vegas. The Bruins are allowing only 58 points per game in the first 2 rounds.